Hey Dad,
Yo, son, how you going?
pretty good. What have you developed?
Well, what we have here now is for those chasing big power out of these 1.6 litre turbo G16 engines, is a solid lash adjuster or pivot instead of the hydraulic. So what we have here is the hydraulic one that we've been using, as you can see.
Yep.
Now this one here we've developed to take exactly the same retainer clip on the original rocker, but converted to a solid for high revving, high performance application. And they're pretty much almost a drop-in, but they need to be installed by an engineering shop where the cylinder heads off the engine in most cases. You may be able to do it while it's on the motor, but when you're doing the motor up, you install these. Reason being that you need to have some sort of adjustment on them. So we need about 0.25 of a mil clearance on inlet and exhaust, cold. This is your hydraulic one, and this is our solid. So if we just drop the hydraulic one in, like so, your lash is taken up by the oil pushing that inside piston up.
But what, at high RPMs, they
But
can
high
pump
RPM, they can pump up, cause dramas. We generally get more power out of a solid. Yes, the maintenance can be greater, of course, because you've got to regularly check the clearances. Here it is, a complete solid pivot. It also just drops in, like so. Has its own lubrication hole, much the same as the factory one. The only thing is, it's solid. So there is no give. And once it's set, it's set. What you generally will do is you'll still reuse our retainer clip.
That's awesome.
On the original rocker,
Yep.
like so. If I get that back out, I'll show you that the top of this is actually manufactured the same as what we've done with the hydraulic. That is that it takes our retainer clip, like so. So it's held captive. I've actually got the valve in there with no valve spring. But what I can do is I can push that valve up all the way to its seat. Pivots are made in such a way that you shouldn't have to do too much in the way of adjusting clearances. They're very close to being perfect. But of course, you can take a little bit off the stem of the valve or cut the seat correctly and you'll get the correct adjustment. You can also, in some cases, you can actually put a shim underneath the pivot to take up any of the clearances that you need to correct them. But in most cases, this will be suitable where you can just buy a set of these solids with our retainer clip and install them into a cylinder head while getting it machined. And as you can see there, the clearance, if I push the valve on its seat, the clearance here between the back of the lobe and the rocker is pretty much where it should be. That's with a cap on, the valve and all of that. So it's very close to being correct. That has to be obviously set correctly when the cylinder head's been reconditioned.
Okay, and now what's different about these camshafts that we've had
Telford so
make for us? So these are...
Hydraulic lash adjusters work slightly different to a solid. So these are custom-made cams. You can't just put these, you need to run a special camshaft to run solid pivots. What changes is only really the profile slightly on the ramp, on and off on the cam. That's all that changes.
It's a lash
Apart
ramp
from
that's
that,
added.
yeah. Other than that, the profile of the cam lobe is very similar. Lift is the same. We run these cams that we get manufactured by these great guys, Telford Cams in New Zealand. They've actually custom made some cams for us.
Type B profile.
Correct, yeah. So these are for applications up to sort of 500 to 700 horsepower. This is highly recommended on the big builds, high revving G16 engines.
Because then you're having more precise control of the valve.
Correct.
When you set the lash and that's it.
Generally speaking, when you do the study on these, they can actually deliver a little bit more power, just a little bit more because they have better valve control and less likelihood of collapsing a lash adjuster or pumping up a lash adjuster. So very highly recommended. A lot of shops now are building these motors with massive power. So I would recommend not using these, but using the solids.
This is for big power builds at 500 plus horsepower type B profile.
That's right.
The hydraulics, they still will work fine with the standard cam.
Yep.
They drop in, and that's the great thing about them. They are just drop in, less maintenance. But if you're gonna go for that, pushing the RPM, chasing that big power, that's when you run solids and there's different cam profile.
Correct. So yeah, we've got cams to match and yeah, it'll be an awesome build.
It's like 1,000 horsepower.
Let's do it.